Hello, hello. Welcome to Healthy Perspectives, a podcast that takes on current cultural and social issues through a clinical lens. Hello, hello. All right, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate your time. And let's go with a tip of the day. The tip of the day today is know who you are. That's not as easy as you might think. In order to know who you are, you got to know who you have been in the past, who you're capable of being again. You also need to know who you most likely could become, right? Because there's paths in life that we all choose. So know who you are. Now, you can't do that perfectly, but what you can do is strategically look into the different areas and why they impact you the way that they do. So for today, we are going to be talking about issues, political, cultural issues that affect people I know, including me, that as a therapist, I just can't get behind in certain ways. So I'll talk to you, I'll highlight an issue, and then I'll tell you why I can't get behind it in one direction or the other. So for instance, just to hit hard right out of the gate, I've talked about abortion on my podcast before, and abortion, I cannot get behind the two polarizing options that we have. And the reason I can't get behind the two polarizing options is because there's a third option that to me makes so much more sense as a therapist. Remember, I'm not necessarily telling you my personal views. I'm looking at this like I'm a therapist. And I'm trying to help people learn how to think, not what to think. And the reason I can't get behind the polarizing vantage points that we often see in our mass media is because abortion, to me, is not a mother or a baby. It's a both. It's both. There is no way to eliminate one or the other from the equation and not end up with, well, nothing. Think about it. If there was no conception, there would be no baby, therefore no abortion would ever be necessary. If there was no mother, there would be no conception, therefore no baby, and we would be in the same exact spot. It's both. It's both, it's both, it's both. And so from a clinical lens, I then can sit and not judge somebody who has aborted a baby or somebody who refused to abort a baby. I can't judge them. Can't do it. I have to understand who they were, are, and want to be. Remember, know who you are. So that's an example of what we're going to get today, folks. I'm going to hit some pretty difficult cultural topics. Very difficult. And I look forward to your feedback. Please give it to me. All right. The border. I cannot get behind an open border, period. Why? Not political, psychological, sociological, cultural. I cannot get behind an open border. I've done a podcast on the border in the past. It's a boundary issue. If in a relationship you don't have boundaries, I can show you a relationship that sucks. 100% guaranteed. A boundaryless relationship does not work, period. Not on the psychological level, not on the sociological level, not on the cultural level, and the border falls into it. We cannot have a boundaryless relationship. Therefore, if we have an open border, we have a boundaryless relationship. That's dysfunctional. It's unnaturally dysfunctional. Do what you want with it. There's another one that that hits the same issue that I'll get into here in a minute. But hang with me. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI theoretically is very intriguing to me as a therapist. Unfortunately, its implementation is garbage. So even though you would think I'm a therapist, I should be all behind DEI. Why? Because it's sound practice in theory. Its implementation is awful. It's awful because it's not about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's become about we want you to believe what we want you to believe. That, my friends, based on the implementation process, is what we would call brainwashing. Brainwashing is not about teaching people about difference. It's teaching people to think the way you want them to think. Brainwashing, totally different process. If we want to sit down and have a conversation, I did one recently on microaggression. If you want to sit down and have a conversation about microaggression, let's do it. I'm on board. Its implementation process, though, dysfunctional. Massively dysfunctional. Because if I use a lesson to tell you anything about your value, rather than to open up dialogue and conversation so we can learn each other's strengths and weaknesses, it's no longer relational. Therefore, it's no longer a therapeutic approach. I cannot get behind it. Public education restrictions. Now, there's been ongoing conversations about, school choice. And you're probably going, okay, what's he going to say here? I hope that's what you're doing. Hang on to your seatbelt, folks. It's going to be an interesting ride. I can't get behind having the public education restrictions because 50 years ago, they absolutely made sense. Getting a kid from one school to another school meant that only the privileged kids would be able to do it. It's 2024. There's multiple options. The poor kids, the unprivileged kids, which I was a poor kid, they could go to multiple schools in their area with very little difficulty. It's just ride a different bus. It's just, catch a different ride. It's like, it's not even that difficult. And in the denser populated areas where it's actually most important, because there's such a variability in quality of schools, I can't get behind saying, oh no, we're going to keep anybody who is not able to fight their way into another school here. We're going to pin them in this school. That's just, it's 2024, folks. That's archaic now. It doesn't apply anymore. And in rural locations, well, truth is, most rural locations really only have a few options anyway. And so if they want to choose the public school, great. The private school, great. The charter school, great. Who cares? And I've heard some conversation about they should take their money with them. I think that's a very intriguing process, that the money goes with the kid. If they don't use it, the state keeps it. That's interesting too. I don't know. Okay, the next one. Energy and the environment. You're like, oh boy, Jeremiah, where are you going to go with this one? We, from a psychological, sociological, cultural, clinical perspective, we have to be responsible. We have to be responsible for the environment. Yes. I mean, I've taught my kids to pick up stuff when they're on the trails. My daughter often packs out 10 things that she didn't pack in, and I very much appreciate it. So when it comes to the environment, we got to be responsible. And our environment is a tool for us. You're like, whoa, that is very egocentric. That is one person centric. It kind of is, folks. But from a psychological, sociological, and cultural lens, we start from how do we manage it and how do we utilize it? So what I can't get behind, I can't get behind it. I cannot get behind the no drilling ever, because it's, as a tool goes, it simplifies so many things. Now, I'm all for drilling responsibly, which is probably not happening where we're going to end up buying all of our fuel from in the future because we're not drilling. I don't think they're going to be responsible stewards. Whereas here in the United States, overall, we are pretty responsible. Not perfect, for sure. Can we get better? Yes. Should we? Yes. Why? Because we have a responsibility to our environment to protect it. That doesn't mean we give up all the tools that it offers. It just means we think more creatively. We use the ingenuity of men and women of the United States to say, how do we make this better? If this is the problem, what do we do to make it better? Now, firearms. You're probably going, oh gosh, he's going to be like, get rid of all the firearms because they kill people. They do sometimes when used that way. They also have been a tool for safety and protection. So from a clinical lens, I see the tension in this conversation. I see it super clearly. And it is a tense spot. A lot like the abortion stuff that's really tense. This one has a pretty clear, not perfectly clear, but a pretty clear pathway. And it's not what I can't get behind. I'm going to tell you what I can't get behind. It's not a registry. It's not a registry. Because that doesn't increase safety. It doesn't do anything to improve the safety of the use, of the training, of the, if they've got a permit, like a concealed weapons permit, it doesn't do any of that stuff. I couldn't get behind a registry. It makes no sense clinically. Do what you want with it. This is a clinical perspective on your Second Amendment rights. Clinically, it doesn't make sense to have a registry where all the weapons you have are known by all kinds of other people. Matter of fact, I would probably make a stronger argument from a clinical perspective that would be culture trying to tell individuals how to live. And culture doesn't make individuals live a certain way, although it often influences them. Culture is not designed to do that. Individuals are designed to create cultural barriers and boundaries on purpose for the safety of their friends, their family, their loved ones, their communities, and for the greater culture as a whole. I also cannot get behind the Christian persecution that is happening in our culture. I just was reading up on this whole 10 Commandments thing. Now, look, I know you're going to say this is tainted, Jeremiah, because you're a Christian. I know that, but it's not tainted. I'll explain. Hang with me long enough, you'll understand. The Christian persecution, the 10 commandments being mandated in the classroom, I don't think that's necessary. I don't. I don't think that mandating it is necessary. What I also know is that right now, the symbols that are not allowed in schools in general, it's going to be your cross. It's going to be, the 10 commandments. It's going to be Christianity. That's a persecution by omission. Folks, clear as day to me. Because why? You've seen this before. Counselors look for what's not present, what's not being said. And if you can put up, a Ukraine flag in a school, but you can't put up a cross in a school, I have a problem with that. That's a persecution of the cross. And so this whole separation of church and state thing, I get where it came from. I've done my study on history. My question is, have you? It, by design, was not telling anybody they couldn't put a cross up in the school. It was saying you couldn't force your religion on anybody else. And a cross isn't forcing religion. Just like I can make the argument that an LGBTQ flag isn't forcing a belief system. So those are up in schools. Why not something? I mean, optionally, if a teacher wants to, they should be able to put up the 10 commandments. Why not? To do anything other than that takes away the right to religion of that teacher, of that employee, of that student. Well, let's say a teacher is like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to lose my job, which is a really sad reality, persecution again. But if a kid puts it up, what happens? Does it get taken down? Sure seems like it probably does, based on what I'm hearing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in some schools they're doing it. I hope that freedom to express in that way is available to them. Otherwise, what we have is schools brainwashing children. I know I came back to that. Look at that, folks, full circle. LGBTQ, AI plus whatever that is, that acronym, because I honestly don't know it all in the moment. I think I got it right. Can I get behind same-sex attraction? Absolutely. You're attracted to who you're attracted to. Do I have a problem with that? Look, I know the natural design of the body from a psychological, sociological, cultural lens. So let me give you the clinical perspective there. Where I have the biggest issue with the LGBTQ movement is when we, as therapists even, are exacerbating symptomology that is unhealthy rather than being what we're supposed to be, which is healers. That's a problem. So I cannot get behind body dysmorphia being ignored in favor of affirmation. It's wrong. And I use the word wrong. I know I usually say healthy or unhealthy. Here's why it's wrong. Wrong. Strong language, wrong. It's wrong because to affirm something that is dysfunctional as though it is functional creates no growth. And the healing process, the psychological process, is to grow. Trauma can be healed. Your trauma, if you have a trauma, it can be healed. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I've helped with it thousands of times. And how is it healed? Through growth, not affirmation. There's going to be moments of affirmation. There's going to be moments of challenge. There's going to be all kinds of different moments. But it's healed through growth. It becomes a bad memory instead of a trauma once the growth has occurred. So folks, you want to know a few things that as a clinical counselor, we cannot get behind? I just gave you a few. I hope this challenges you. I hope you're thinking more. And I really hope you respond to us and you let us know your thoughts on one or many of these issues. Thank you so much for listening, following, doing all of that stuff that you all have been doing. We are growing organically. It is slow, but it is happening. And you're part of it. And I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. We appreciate our audience a lot, so we give you some simple ways to track us down. Please like, subscribe, and follow all the podcasts on different platforms, but you can also email us at healthyperspectives@protonmail.com, or you can check out our website at healthy-perspectives.com/podcast. It's a backward slash. So if you want to go to our landing page, if you go to healthy-perspectives.com, you'll still find us. You just got to click on the podcast button. Thank you so much.